When it comes to the two-handed hate, I've matured up a lot since I was a kid. So it doesn't really get to me anymore. Alright guys, so every now and then I like to answer your questions, and so I've taken these questions from YouTube, Facebook, Reddit, pretty much everywhere, and so here we go. I'm going to show you the question and I'm going to answer them as honestly and as best as I possibly can. If you do have a question that you would like answered from me, I'm sure I'll do more and more of these videos as the season goes on, so don't be afraid to put a question in the comments below or reach out to me on social media at Belmo pretty much everywhere. And yeah, I do keep track of interesting and good questions, and you might be featured on the next video. So without further ado, let's get to answering your questions. Yeah, so in bowling, we have a scoring system where 200 is quote unquote par. So any score above 200, you get a plus, and any score below 200, you get a minus. So in that scenario, if I were to bowl a 201, I would have a +1 as a score. If I follow that up with a 199, I would go back one pin back to 0. And so when you bowl 250s, 170, 230s, 220s, you're adding and subtracting based on 200 being the par score. It's not my handicap. I haven't had a handicap in a long time. Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to the two-handed hate, I've matured up a lot since I was a kid. So it doesn't really get to me anymore. But to answer the question, it's not a hard one to answer for me. And it's always really been this. It's the travel away from home. That is by far the hardest. You have a good day, you've really got no one to share it with. You have a bad day, you've got no one to share it with when you're over here alone. So it's the hardest part of my job, getting on the plane. I don't know. I think there's always like a year where I'm like, oh, that's going to be a hard one to repeat or to equal. And throughout my career, I have these little, ups and downs that go with. And so to say, have I hit my peak? I don't know. Like, it was only a couple of years ago, I won 5 titles in a year. So I feel good. I work out and look after myself, and I don't feel as old as I am. So I'd like to think I've still got a couple of peak years left. Yeah, this is always a question that comes up. I don't really have an answer. I've still got a few things that I want to tick off my bucket list, and the sooner I get them done, the easier it will be to make the decision on whether or not I retire or not. But at least for the short term, you'll still see me out here every week. Yeah, I suppose that's a really good question, because my generation of two-handed bowlers are kind of the crash test dummies for everyone to see how long we will last. Like I said, I mean, I look after myself, and I wake up every single day and nothing hurts. I have no injuries. I've never had an injury. And I'd like to hope that that's going to be like that for a few more years. I mean, obviously, just like traditional one-handed bowling, we are a repetitious sport. So the more balls that we bowl, yeah, we're putting strain on our joints and ligaments and everything else. But I'd like to think if you take care of yourself, no matter how you bowl, you're going to give yourself the best possible chance for a long career. Yeah, look, there's a famous question in sports, and it is insert sport here, and the question is it more mental or more physical? And then you hear people say, oh, it's 50-50 or 60-40, but the truth of the matter is it's 100% and 100%. Like, you cannot be successful having a horrible mental game and a great physical game. And I also think that it's very difficult to be successful if you have a horrible physical game and a good mental game. You need to be able to gel them and have 100% of both. And I think if you can work on your game where you do have a strong physical and mental game, well, that's how you keep up with everyone. And so for me, I'm constantly working on my physical game, and I'm constantly learning how to better my mental game, and I think that's probably been the key for me is, yeah, never allowing myself to fall backwards in one area or the other. Yeah, the Masters is a very good one for me. I've won it a few times, although I have won the TOC 4 times as well. I think the TOC or the World Championship, the TOC just because it's the best of the best. You can only enter the tournament if you have a PBA championship, and so the quality of the field from top to bottom, well, everyone's a winner. So they're brilliant players. Obviously, the Masters are still really, really great. It's just I don't know. To me, there's just that something special about the TOC. The World Championship, now that it's a part of the World Series of Bowling, is also really special because it is a lot of games, a lot. Like, we have to play multiple animal patterns that carry forward into the World Championship, and so you need versatility. Yeah, you need physical and mental strength to survive the entire World Series. So, winning that, it's going to sound silly, but I don't know if it's 3 or 4 times, but I've won that a few times. I very much respect those wins internally. They mean a lot. Yeah, it's such a fun process for me to make a bowling ball. I think, the first, the timeless, the drive, the pro motion, I had a lot less input in those because I didn't know anything. I was walking into the Storm's R&D department, and my input was more about, this is what I would like to see, this is some shape that I would like to see. Now you guys sprinkle your magic on it and see what you come up with. But once we got into the Trend series, and now with the Fate and the Journey, I've learnt so much more about how weight blocks are designed and how you mix a cover stock with its materials, and I feel like I'm way more educated. So now when I go into R&D and I talk to the boys, I start throwing out some weight block shapes. I start adding in some possible cover variations, and it's so much fun. It's just so much fun because you just have this blank idea. You get in a room with a few boys that know what they're doing. You just talk, and then you make it. And then you see what happens. If it's good, bad, whatever, you make it, you throw it. And it's like, I don't know, it's fun throwing a bowling ball that no one knows exists. It's fun, I like it. Yeah, so, not just the variation between Australia and the US, but I've been fortunate now to have traveled to nearly 55, I think it's 54, 55 countries around the world. And each location that I go to, it has its unique qualities. I think for Australia, especially growing up, our lanes were just so much drier than everywhere else. Like, you had to throw it hard and fast. And that's how I built my game, was just standing as far back on the approach as I possibly could, running as fast as I could towards the foul line and just throwing it down there, because there was just such little volume and such little length in the patterns. And so when you see the evolution of technology come to Australia, the gap in the variation between here, the US, and back home is a little bit smaller. But yeah, we still hook them a bit more back home, I think. Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, the RGs, differentials, and cover stocks of a bowling ball, that's the ingredients on how that ball reacts down the lane. Obviously, you also throw into your hand release position and your speed and your tilt and all those other things, but are you 100% notice the difference in the ball itself and what it's made of and what's inside of it as it's going down the lane? I mean, look, the easiest way to see the change is throw a strike with a reactive ball, your favorite reactive ball, then stand in the exact same spot and hit the exact same target and use plastic. And that's night and day. And that's just all composition of bowling ball and weight block. So yeah, you go through your arsenal, and that's why we always talk about, filling gaps in your arsenal. There's no point having 6 bowling balls that are designed and roll very similar to each other. You want to have those steps up and down to be able to, kind of combat any pattern, any transition that you come across. Yeah, I think the very first thing you have to do is take a big, deep breath, and you have to remember you're still human. Like you want to play great every time you throw a ball down the lane or whatever it is that you're doing, but the reality is that is an impossible thing to ask of yourself, to be amazing 100% of the time. And so if you allow yourself to be human and make mistakes, it's easier to swallow those bad days. I will say that if you are constantly making the same mistakes over and over, then that's on you. Like, you need to be able to see what's causing a bad day. And if it is a mental game thing or a physical thing, like, you need to be aware of it and talk to someone who's smarter than you in that area and get better at it. Yeah, I feel like this is, I can, have like a cutout doll of me standing here with a tape recorder taped to its mouth and just press play. I've said this story so many times, but the short version of it is I started bowling when I was 18 months old in my parents' bowling centre back home in Orange, New South Wales, Australia, and the ball was just too heavy to use for an 18-month-old kid to swing it traditionally. So I wanted to do it by myself. Mum and Dad couldn't help me. I didn't want anyone's help. And so I would just kind of pick this ball up and waddle to the foul line and dump it down the lane as best I could. And as I was getting older, I just continued to develop this technique, which allowed me the freedom to do it by myself. And then by the time it was time for me to actually change, because I was now big enough and strong enough to do it with one hand, I was having too much fun, and I was hooking the ball too much with 2 hands, and that was the end of me. You were never going to convince me to change after that. So my positive access point, my PAP, is 6 inches over and an 1/8 down, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's a very deep question, because I think there are a lot of different areas in which bowling can improve in that space. But here's what I'd probably say is the quickest and easiest way to help promote and grow the game. no matter who you are, if you love the game of bowling, then I think you have a responsibility to it to talk about it, whether it be on social or on a bus or a train, at the family dinner table. I'm not saying you have to talk about it all the time, but if the opportunity arises and you have a chance to talk highly of bowling, then you should take that. If you have friends that aren't bowlers, talk to them about it. And obviously, no matter who you are, like someone like myself, I probably have a larger responsibility because my platform is a little larger. But whether you are just a casual, once a week league bowler who just loves the game, you're averaging 150, you too have a little responsibility to just share why you love it so much. And I think if we can, I say, infect more and more people with the love of the game of bowling, then it spreads. And then, ball manufacturers sell more bowling balls. And in my experience with Storm anyway, the more money they make, the more they inject into our game. And then when you're talking on a broader, larger scope, I mean, if there are more and more people who are watching bowling, talking about bowling, posting about bowling, buying bowling accessories, other sponsors kind of want to feed off of that as well. So I think, you think about it, like we have, it's estimated 100-something million people go bowling every year around the world, like 120 or 130. Just imagine if we all decided to take one extra friend bowling that wasn't a bowler. That's a lot more bowlers overnight. So we should do that. Look, I think balance, no matter what you're doing, pro sports or busy career, off the lanes, I think you need to be very aware of balance in your life. And it's one of the conversations I had with Bill Chrisman, who owns Storm, or used to own Storm until he passed away, and talking to him about, listen, if you want me to bowl my absolute best, then there are going to be things that I'm going to have to miss so I can go home and recharge and have that balance. If I bowl too much, sure, I can make some money, but then my family life suffers. And if I don't bowl enough, I don't make enough money, I might be happy at home, but then my career suffers. And so you've got to really work that out. And I don't think there's any secret to it. I think it's just figuring it out, having conversations with people that you love and people you work with, and trying to figure out how to make that work for you. I think Storm and I and my family have done a really good job over the 20 plus years I've been traveling around the world, and the 15 years or so I've been bowling out on tour, that we've managed to make that balance work for us all. So I'm gonna take the last three parts of that question, because it's not gonna be what you're looking to hear. But out here on tour, we will drill and throw bowling balls depending on what the pattern is and what we're trying to do, what shape we're trying to create. And that's one of the luxuries I think that we're very fortunate to have out here on tour, is we do get to essentially rebuild our arsenal every single week if we want to, if we need to. And so when someone says, how do you drill your balls? It's like, tell me what we're bowling on and I'll tell you how I can drill them for this week. So I wish I had a cookie cutter type answer, but I don't. It's very variables. Snacks, I do like to kind of, if the bowling center is offering snacks in between shots, games, I love to eat fruits. I drink a lot of water when I'm bowling, always drinking. Nuts and fruits are great if you get access to them. Sometimes if they've got a little chocolate, you might just sneak one of those in between the blocks if you're starting to feel, a little tired, you need a little sugar pump. But usually not much more than that. Now, preparing before a squad and for a tournament, I guess prior to the tournament, there's a few things you can do to prepare yourself best. The first thing is you can find out, how old the place is, what type of lane surface they have. If you can find out the pattern, find out what oil pattern you're bowling on, what machine they're using, and what type of oil they're using on the machine. You can also find out what pin setters they're using, and all of this information can be really useful for you to, kind of have an idea on what you want to do when you get there. If you're lucky like we are on the PBA tour and you get a practice session, that's the first things that I'm looking at. I'm looking at all of those things, and then I'm starting to put together a kind of a strategy and a plan before I even start practicing. But generally in the middle of practice, I'm starting to develop my strategy and plan for the tournament. So if you can tick off some of those boxes before you even turn up, it can be really beneficial to you. In terms of like the mental preparation for it, I don't really overthink too much. I'm a very relaxed and calm person by nature. I don't suffer from anxiety very often, and if I do, it's only in very, high anxiety type situations, bowling on TV, trying to win a major championship or something like that. But even then, once the last ball is thrown, I feel like the anxiety can leave me. So I'm very lucky from that. Before I go and bowl a tournament, I'm usually just doing whatever I was doing. Like I'm not really thinking too much more other than those points about strategy on like knowing what the bowling center is and what pattern we're bowling on, so I can at least have an idea going in. G'day, thanks for watching. If you loved this one, check out the rest of the videos from this playlist or any other playlist. Make sure that you like the video and please subscribe if you would love to be the first to catch any of the latest of the behind the scenes and a whole lot of other cool stuff.